Hello there, everyone. This is Aaron St. Dennis, the FF Mad Scientist, and welcome back to the Mad Science Lab podcast. Today, we're going to be continuing on with studs and duds. Here for his studs and duds is Jeremy Shulman. Jeremy, thank you for joining me. It's glad to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. It's a good concept, so happy to jump into it.
Great. I want to take a second here, tell everyone where they can find your work.
Yep, I'm on Twitter at FFRebel, posting as many Dynasty trades as possible all the time. Also writing weekly articles for the league winners and FF Faceoff this season. So, yeah, just pumping out content right now and moving forward up until and through the season.
All right. Well, let's get right into it then. We have first up is David Montgomery. Was he a stud or a dud for you?
Oh, Monty's got to be a stud, man.
I don't look at it first. I load the 4 players up, but I don't check and see if you because I've got 8 or 10 of these scheduled, and 7 of them have Calvin Ridley. So I don't look because I don't want to know what side I'm arguing on. But all right. So you have him as a stud. We'll look quickly here. 801 rushing yards last year, 316 through the air, 6 touchdowns, 183.2 fantasy points in half PPR, which is an 11.11 per game. That's an interesting number. Current ADP is 80 overall on Fantasy Pros. Finished as RB24 last year. What is it? Why is he your stud?
Man, I mean, look, I don't think anyone is going to sit here and tell you that David Montgomery's skill is blowing people away. For me, it's all situation. He goes from a pretty adequate offensive line and offensive scheme with Justin Fields trying to figure it out to one of the better offenses in the league. He still managed about 4 yards per carry behind that Chicago line. And even though, as you mentioned, he only ran for 800 yards, he was heavily involved in the passing game. While I don't expect that to continue, he's got all the skills to do it enough. And I think it's, he's one of these volume plays that you can get late. And I think he is going to become what everyone hopes James Conner will be this year, and what kind of he was doing last year, just really producing on just an insane amount of volume.
I agree. Between him and Algier, I have a lot of late shares. How many times do we see this where a rookie comes in, no matter how good they are? They never, the backup's never completely useless. I mean, I guess with Jonathan Taylor, Marlon Mack was useless because he tore his ACL. Like everyone else, Montgomery's a steal. I don't disagree with this at all. When I seen this, I like it. I don't know if he's necessarily going to be a stud. He's definitely going to be a value, though. With that in mind, let's take a look here. I'll bring up the running backs in his range. So he's going off the board as 80 overall, which is RB27. Let's start with the 3 above him, and you tell me if you'd take him over any of them. Sure. Rashad White, James Conner, and Alex Madison.
Yeah, like I mentioned with Conner, I think Monty is what people want Conner to be, so no way. I think Madison we're going to see him skyrocket even more than he already has. So that's kind of a tricky one. I'm going to leave that for a second. The first one was Rashad White. I just hate the offense. Really, what I'm looking to do in fantasy more than anything else is, and this is nothing new. This is nothing groundbreaking. Everyone's heard this. You want good players on good teams, right? You want the guys that are going to see volume. And one thing that I love about the Detroit Lions is their terrible defense coupled with a really good offense. I want the guy who's going to see those goal line, short yardage carries, heavy volume. And that guy for me is going to be Montgomery every time.
After him, we have Pacheco, Javonte Williams, and James Cook. Do you like any of those 3 more than him?
Cook is interesting. Javante, you just never know with the injury.
All
I
three
think
are interesting, but I think I feel Montgomery feels safer than all of them. I also feel like in actual drafts, Montgomery goes a lot cheaper than these. So I'm not sure I necessarily agree with their ADP.
Yeah, I guess it depends what you're doing, and sometimes I'm not sure at this stage of the offseason how much the ADP is affected by best ball leagues.
Yeah.
That's always something I'm considering. But certainly Montgomery's a value now. I think even 80 overall is what is that? Is that round six?
Seven, I
Seven.
think.
Yeah.
Seven.
I think even if he jumps to round six or even kind of late round five by July, August, I still think that's a steal. Look, Jamal Williams scored 17 touchdowns last year. That's ridiculous. Jamal Williams in that offense would not do that again. However, David Montgomery has the clearest path to 10 touchdowns that I think I've ever seen. The Detroit Lions scored 23 rushing touchdowns last year. Jared Goff threw 29 passing touchdowns. Now, I expect Goff, especially with a quote unquote full season or 2/3 of a season from Jameson Williams to eclipse 29 passing touchdowns, but he's still Jared Goff. They're still going to need to pound the ball into the end zone as much as possible. Let's give Jahmyr Gibbs a very generous 8 rushing touchdowns.
Yeah.
You're still looking at an easy path to 10 rushing touchdowns for David Montgomery. And if he is able to add a little bit through the air, I mean, you're just talking about a guy who's going to be a clear cut, probably high end RB2 with a potential with injury, or, maybe he's really good. Maybe this line just takes that jump to super elite status, and then he jumps into RB1 territory. So I'm grabbing up all the Monty I can.
All righty. Who do you want to go to next? I'll leave it up to you.
Well, you mentioned him already, so I think we got to talk about Calvin Ridley.
You say Ridley?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Just a sec. Calvin Ridley. Stud or dud?
Stud.
All right. And just one sec.
Sure.
Only one single rushing yard last year. Not sure how that happened.
Shame.
1374 in the receiving yards, 9 touchdowns, 268 total fantasy points for 17.87 per game. Was wide receiver 5, and I should mention these are not last year's. I don't know why I didn't type it in. They're not last year's or the year before. Last year he was out with suspension. The year before was 5 games. These are 2020, the last year he played a full season. So that's why you're looking, and he was wide receiver 5 as opposed to wide receiver 900. Current ADP is 53. What are you not liking here?
No, I love him.
Sorry. Yes, you're right.
No, it's fine. I love Calvin Ridley. Look, last offseason, I feel like we were all bemoaning the choices that the Jaguars were making to give all of these adequate receivers massive contracts. Why are they bringing in Christian Kirk on such a big deal? Why are they bringing in Zay Jones? Why does Evan Ingram, all these kind of castaways? We finally have a guy now in Jacksonville who has done it at an elite status. He did it, and he didn't stop doing it until the league stopped him, right? Or he stopped himself, depending on how you look at it. But the issue for Ridley is never talent. And we've seen these mediocre look, Christian Kirk, I like him. Evan Ingram, I like them. They are talented guys, but they're not on the level of Calvin Ridley. It's not even close for me. I think he comes in immediately, dominates targets. The camp reports are already phenomenal. They're kind of resting him in camp. I read this up on this the other day. They're resting him in camp because he's done enough. There's no reason for him to, other than building rapport with Trevor Lawrence, who I also love this year. There's no reason for him to kind of go out there and go nuts. So right now, I think he's easily the wide receiver 1 in Jacksonville. I think he can easily hit that target mark. 143 targets is a lot, but he can easily get to the 120, 130 range, I think. 1,300 yards, 9 TDs. maybe a bit of a stretch in his first year in Jacksonville, but we're not drafting him as the wide receiver 5. We're drafting him as the wide receiver, what, 20, 25? I
Yeah.
mean, come on.
It is amazing just how polarizing he is. Having said that, I had him listed as wide receiver or 53 overall. He's since
Mm.
moved up. He's 43 overall. The three above him, Keenan Allen, Amari Cooper, and D Hop. Do you like any of those three? What do you think about the four total? Those three and Ridley.
Cooper, I love.
Yeah, me too.
I'm so high on Deshaun Watson. I don't know how I feel about Kevin Stefanski still. So that's kind of that one's almost a push for me. The other two, I don't think D Hop lands in a situation where it's going to be even better for him. He's a great talent. He's aging. But that one may be a push too. But look, I want Ridley. I'm banking on upside here. And who we don't know with D Hop yet. We have an interesting situation with Keenan Allen with new offensive coordinator Kellen Moore coming in. And I love Justin Herbert in that offense, but there's a lot of mouths to feed. I don't think there's a lot of mouths to feed in Jacksonville. I think it's Ridley. I think it's it's Kirk and maybe a little bit of Evan Ingram.
The three below him are interesting: Terry McLaurin, DJ Moore, and Jerry Jeudy. What are your thoughts there?
I love those guys. Love Judy especially, but we have situation concerns, right?
Yeah,
Judy has never really um, hit that kind of elite status that we expected. I mean, he was. Correct me if I'm wrong. He was drafted above Justin Jefferson. Is that
I
correct?
believe so. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so.
And so kind of we all expected Judy to be Jefferson. Didn't happen. I'm looking for the breakout this year, but I still want Ridley. McLaurin has a quarterback concern, in my opinion. We're still looking at what I consider a rookie quarterback in Sam Howell. Um, and rookie quarterbacks for number one wide receivers aren't great. And then the third one you mentioned, DJ Moore. Justin Fields, love Justin Fields. Is he that developed as a passer yet? No, still going to be growing pains there. So, yeah, I'm taking him over pretty much every single one of those guys. Cooper is my only question mark there.
All right. Who would you like to go to next?
Let's do Mike Williams. Stick
Mikey
with the pass catchers.
Williams. All right, let's bring that up. Mike Williams is your first bust. 895 receiving yards, 4 touchdowns. I never realized how bad a season he had last year.
Mm-hmm.
164.5 fantasy points, which I realized was low. But then after, I tend to look at these in large spreadsheets where all the numbers are together and you don't really get to isolate one. But when I looked
Sure.
at that, I said, wow, was 164.5 low. But then the next one is 13.58 per game, which was relatively high compared to a lot of the others, which led me to the realization that it's because he missed a shitload of games.
As
He was
usual.
wide receiver 32 overall. If he ever stays healthy, the ceiling's there, but he just never stays healthy. Currently, he is 57 in ADP. What don't you like about him? I assume the next words or next word out of your mouth will be health.
It's not. It's not, right? Like I try as much. It's hard. It's hard because we all have bias against these players, but I try as much as possible not to incorporate health into how I view a player. Certainly, um, if you consider, if you incorporated health into all of your analysis and drafting, you're missing out on massive seasons from Christian McCaffrey or Debo Samuel or a bunch of these other guys who were quote unquote never able to stay healthy and then all of a sudden put it together and were league winners, right? They're league winners for a reason because they were able to stay healthy and they were just as good as they always was. Mike Williams, for me, it's more situation. We have Kellen Moore coming in at OC. We have Justin Herbert, who's excellent. All of these are good things. The problem is all the cast around him. It's Austin Eckler, who's going to demand another 100 targets, whether Moore wants him to have him or not.
Yeah.
It's Quentin Johnston, who is getting rave reviews, and I've been rising on him ever since the draft and the process. I thought the landing spot was absolutely phenomenal for him and what he can do. And Keenan Allen will not go away. He's one of the best receivers we've ever seen. I would love to see him win a title, so we can maybe talk about Keenan Allen Hall of Fame talk, which would be fun. Might not make it, but it would be fun to consider because he's one of the best talents that we've seen in a while, I think, at the receiver position.
So basically, too many mouths to feed is the issue here.
Yeah, and why are you feeding the guy who can't get open, the contested catch guy, when he really hasn't done it? I mean, 4 TDs, he isn't being utilized in the red zone. And I mentioned all those guys, and I didn't mention Gerald Everett, who was phenomenal last season, and one of the breakout TEs last year, and I think he'll be even better this year.
He is about 2 tiers down from Ridley. It's amazing. In the 4 or 5 days since I printed these graphics up, Ridley went up 10 ADP. Williams did not move a bit. So he's at 57. The 3 above him are Christian Watson, Christian Kirk, and Drake London. Then we have Godwin, Pittman, Lockett below him. I think I like... You know what the funny part is? I think I like the 3 below him better than the 3 above him. Godwin, Pittman, Lockett.
Yeah.
I get London and Watson could be home run swings, but I like
Mhm.
Kirk. Kirk, I think, is the only one out of those 6 that I wouldn't take over Williams. I think I like the rest of them over him. What do you think?
I might take Kirk over him. I know I just poured a lot of cold water on him with the Calvin Ridley talk, but I think there's room for 2 elite pass catchers in that
Yeah.
Jacksonville offense, and I think Kirk is going to be the 1B. I don't think anyone's going to take that away from him, and he certainly earned it last year. As for the 3 below, Lockett for me is a steal. I almost put him on the stud list because while JSN is a monster, DK is a literal monster.
I just Lockett. I get Lockett's getting up there in age. I got him literally about an hour ago. I was in the middle of a startup. I get how old he is. I got him in the 14th round.
Mm-hmm.
How is he in the 14th round of a dynasty startup? I get it. It's dynasty
silly.
And he's old, but Jesus.
And forget best ball for a minute. I'm stacking as much Geno and Tyler Lockett as I can in dynasty leagues and pre-draft leagues, man.
Yeah,
No,
Geno's
listen,
another one. Just falling.
I almost put him on this list too as a stud. But getting back to Williams, yeah, the only one who was in the middle after him. Oh,
Godwin, Pittman, Lockett.
Yeah, Godwin I don't love because of his QB situation, but some people think that maybe that's better for him and are kind of saying Mike Evans is the one.
I think it hurts Evans more than it hurts him, but I don't love the situation.
But Michael Pittman for me. I mean, Anthony Richardson looks great. I'm a huge fan of Anthony Richardson, but new head coach, new rookie quarterback. I mean, it's really hard to see a path for him to even be a wide receiver 2 for me. So I'm pretty much all the way out on Pittman. And even still, that's a consideration for me with Mike Williams because he's clearly the number 1 target in that offense. So yeah, I'd probably take every single one of these guys over Mike Williams.
Yeah, which is it's really interesting. But yeah, I agree. Bringing us to your last player, your second bust, newly acquired Eagle, DeAndre Swift. He was with the Lions last year. Excuse me. 542 rushing yards, 389 through the air, 8 touchdowns, 183.1 fantasy points, good for 13.65 per game. He was RB21, which was surprisingly high. I feel like he never played. Currently going at 64 overall. Why are you low on him?
Well, we talked about Jamal Williams earlier and his 17 touchdowns. I mean, DeAndre Swift was given every opportunity early in the season and last season to kind of not necessarily take over the short down and distance work, but to be the guy. And he was just never able to do it. And some people point to Deuce Staley kind of just hating him, some sort of work ethic concerns that Dan Campbell pointed out. Whatever it was, it didn't work, and he's in a even better offense somehow. With one of the best O-lines we've seen in a long time, with a dynamic passing offense, crazy RPO, schemes out there, and which may or may not continue. We'll see for Philadelphia. But even with all of that said, and we're looking at one of the best rushing offenses from last year, it was all Miles Sanders and Jalen Hurts. There wasn't really a third guy involved. I think the third guy with the most touches in that backfield was Boston Scott, and he didn't do much, right? We're looking at, in my opinion, still a two-headed monster. Hurts is not, mobile quarterbacks are not checking down to the running back, right? So we can kind of eliminate a lot of those checkdowns that
was
we're
going to be the next thing I said. I don't think he
hoping
checks
for.
down. Yeah.
No, but I'm a massive believer, especially because he's going far later right now than Swift. I'm a massive believer still in Rashad Penny. The only knock on Penny is his injury history. And like I said earlier, listen, if we're just playing the injury game, at some point we're going to be wrong, but at some point we're going to be right.
I have an insane amount of exposure to one Eagles running back. Would you like to guess who it is?
It better be Rashad Penny because I'm in the same
boat.
It's
not. It is Kenneth Gainwell.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because he's so late, I get him free, and I'm thinking one or both of these guys go down to injury. So also I'll take Kenneth Gainwell for free.
Yeah. But so wait, 64. Are you saying is your overall RB21 ranking there?
Just a sec. Let me bring up the I'll bring up the I just double checked. He's 64 overall. I will bring up the ADP on screen right here. I don't know what that is. Where the hell is he? 64 RB23. So he's got
no way.
Sanders, Dalvin Cook, and Akers above him. I would easily take all three, even though Cook doesn't have a team. Then he's got White, Connor, and Madison. That gets a little dicier, but I think I'd still take all three of them over him. There's no way I'm taking him at 64 overall is what, beginning of the 6th round? No thanks.
Yeah.
No chance. No chance.
Forget it. And listen, he's not getting that receiving work. Kenneth Gainwell, like you mentioned, is a pretty excellent receiving back, in my opinion, and they just haven't utilized him, right? So I'm taking all of those guys. We'll see about Dalvin Cook. The jury's still out there. We'll see where he lands. If he gets a favorable spot, probably. But yeah, for me, Swift is the 1B, and Penny, as long as he's healthy, is just they're going to run the ball on the ground with him and Hurts, and that's going to be it. I don't see, if it ain't broken for the Philadelphia Eagles, don't fix it.
I think this is a split until one of them gets hurt, which they will. And then I think it's a split with Gainwell. So I'm taking the cheapest option. I'll take Gainwell. I will also take Penny. Swift is the most expensive, and I am out for sure on Swift. I want nothing to do with him. Let me scroll down here. I want to see where Penny is in 80. Penny is 115. So almost, 60 picks later almost at RB39. We go even further here. Kenneth Gainwell is 157. So I can have Gainwell almost 100 picks later. And Penny 60 picks later. So I'm going to have very few shares of DeAndre Swift. That's what it boils down to.
If you want what you think DeAndre Swift is going to be, just wait until the super late rounds and just grab Jerick McKinnon. And, just hope, because we're doing the same thing. We're praying, right? That I feel like DeAndre Swift is a moonshot. He's got the talent, but, he's never been able to put it together. And Rashad Penny is elite. So, in my opinion.
He's Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Yes, he is.
All right. Well, thank you for joining me. You want to take a second again to tell everyone where they can find your work?
Yep. Posting weekly articles at the League Winners and FF Faceoff at FF_Rebel on Twitter. And mostly Dynasty content, but love me some redraft, and we're headed into the season here. So can't wait to get into the summer and see how everything fluctuates. And it's going to be a good time.
I want to get started with it. I've had the recycled takes over and over again. I'm just sick of hearing the same thing. It's like, just let's get to it already. I'm done waiting. Let's start. So
I hear that, man.
All right. This has been Studs and Duds with Jeremy Shulman. Once again, I'm Aaron St. Dennis, the FF Mad Scientist, and this has been the Mad Science Lab podcast. Thanks to Jeremy for joining me. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Have a good night.